Hi, I'm Tinny from Mini Bull Design, and I'm back outside today in my lounge, getting a little sun, just enjoying the warm weather. It's about 75 today, very warm. Earlier today I was out riding my bike, my trike. Now, some people emailed me and asked me about the building a trike and the front wheels, and I'm going to grab the camera and just show those people real quickly what I'm talking about. They wanted to know if you could use regular bicycle wheels for the front of a trike, homemade. Sure, that's basically what everybody uses. Most people use the 20-inch mountain bike wheels. If you can get mountain bike downhill mountain bike wheels, they have really heavy axles and they will work. I wanted to use the 27-inch wheels because I'm not going to skid around like mountain bike people in off-road. I'm strictly on the road, and they roll very easy for an old guy like me. But what I've done is, these are regular regular road bike hubs, but I've taken the regular axle out, and I've got as you can probably see, a pedal axle that I found was the right size, which is much better metal and stiffer and bigger than a mountain bike axle. Than a standard road bike axle, and the bearings matched up, more or less. So that's what I'm using, but I don't recommend it because the bearings aren't a perfect match, and after a couple thousand miles you have to replace the wheels. So I got my axles, or my hubs that I showed you in an earlier video, from Chopper US. Chopper US. They Chopper US. They sell a lot of kits and parts to make chopper bicycles. I know it sounds crazy, but there's a lot of people that, especially city people riding on good hot top streets, that like chopper bikes. I think they're kind of cool, and this place sells a lot of them. But they also have a link. You look up in the left-hand corner, and you can click on recumbent trike parts, and that's where they have the hubs. And they were like $25 a piece, which I thought was pretty reasonable. And they take 15mm axles, which are bigger than half-inch, really beefy. So let's go in the shop and talk in there for a minute. Okay, we're in the factory now. You can probably tell because it's so echoey. And I want to talk about stoves just a little bit. Now, the Elite is an extremely difficult stove to build, and I'm going to show you a couple of reasons why. And the second thing the matter with it is, it's not very durable because it's made out of a soda can and it's easily crushed. I've never liked that in a stove, but it is a great little stove other than that. So let me show you. This is one of the, I ended up calling them the BIOS Micro. This is a BIOS Micro body, and let me give you a demo on strength on that. Okay, this is a BIOS Micro, and trying to get balance here to balance on it. You can see anyway that I'm putting all my weight on it for what little time I can, and there's no effect on it whatsoever. It's there's all my weight right there. I'm putting my hand on the bench to balance. That's all my weight, and I can even bounce on it, and it's completely bulletproof. Okay, I was in the factory, but it's too echoey in there, so I'm going to redo this outside. I want to explain to you all the steps that go into making an Elite. Okay, you take the basic can, wash it out as best you can, flip it up, draw your line for one end, flip it, draw the line for the other end, punch it, cut it out, precision cut the two ends to the length you want them. Then I take it in and rewash it because there's a lot of dirt underneath the rim. Right here where I'm going to cut it. Then I put it in the lathe, and I take a tool and cut the top out of the can. Then I usually wash it out again to get all that coffee out from underneath that rim. I want all of it out if possible. It'll be a better stove. And I rewash the bottom because there's always some caught down in that groove and down in there. Okay, now I've got the two pieces. The next thing I do is I take the top half, flip it upside down, and I anneal this edge right here. That's one anneal. Then I take it over the lathe, and I have a tool, a piece to capture it, indexing on this ring where I cut it out. and run a die in and expand it. I lubricate the die with oil and expand it, pull it back out. Okay, then I take the bottom, take that over to the bench, and I anneal this bottom edge. That's 2 anneal steps. I don't know how many steps total, but I'm just counting the annealing steps for now. And I anneal that whole bottom all the way around till it's nice and soft, and that turns the bottom black when I do that. Okay, then I set these two, slide them together and set these off to the side. Then I cut the inner wall out of another can and clean that all up and set it into the bottom of this. Take the bottom out, set it in here and index it, and then tape all the way around it with a piece of thin tape. And then I punch 6 holes in it, 3 vents and 2 fill holes down in the bottom so the alcohol can get out into the center wall. Okay, then I take that inner wall that's all taped and punched, slide it inside of the top, put the bottom in and capture it. Make sure it goes up in this rim and gets right into place good, and gets it all squared around in the bottom, get it all squared up nice and tight. Then I go put it in the lathe and I spin it, and because this bottom is soft, I take a tool and I roll this edge in so that the gap or the ring in the bottom that is wide, when I get unrolling it, it's right up tight so that it captures the inner wall. Then I start rolling this edge in. Now I can roll it just so far and it'll work harden. At that point I take it over and re-anneal it, and if I'm counting right, that's, let me see, 1, 2, that's the 3rd anneal. Then I take it over and roll it, bring it back, it's work hardened again, anneal it again, that's 4 anneals. Then I take it over and usually that will roll all the way in. I may have to go one more, but we'll just say we're up to 4 anneals right there. Okay, then I take it over and jet it, and then I take it over to the other bench and put these steps in 4 places to raise up the edge so that when you put a pot on it, it only contacts those points and it can't rob the stove of heat, make it go out if you put a cold pot on it. Okay, once I've done that, I anneal this whole top ring all the way around. I anneal it just as hot as I can get it. That way, when you actually fire the stove, the ring won't warp because it's already been annealed. Then I take the stove over to the bench. I think that was 5. Take the stove over to the bench and fire it and let it burn. And then after I do that, that anneals the top ring just from the heat. I take it back over to the bench, and this edge in here that's usually sticking out on everybody else's stoves, since that's been annealed, I take a tool and I roll that right down against the inner wall so there's nothing to catch your finger on. At that point in time, I do an all-over examination of it, and I may go back and anneal again and touch a few things up, and generally maybe tidy up these points a little bit, make sure everything's just the way it's supposed to be. Now, here's the problem. It takes a little over an hour to do all those steps. If you get into this 45 minutes, and when you're crimping it, something goes wrong and it collapses, you're out 45 minutes. You just got to start all over again. And that's the problem with this. I usually end up making 3 of these before I get a good one. If I have a really good day, I'll get through one in an hour without messing it up. But quite often something goes wrong in the process, and believe me, all kinds of stuff to go wrong. So that's the reason why I'm not going to make these anymore. That and the fact that they won't take a side load. It's just thin metal there, and I'm not comfortable with that. They're fine as long as you keep them in a container, but they're not real durable as far as being banged around. So when I make the BIOS Micro, it's much more robust. Simply put that in the lathe and cut the top off to the correct length, move over, cut the bottom off to the correct length, put the top in the bottom, inverted, put it in the press with a precision tool steel die and crimp it, take it over and jet it. I also jet the inside of that top before I put it in so that the alcohol can run through. Then after I jet it, I take it over and bond the wick on, and it's done. And those processes aren't the type of processes that you are going to ruin the stove. The stove's much more robust, and you don't have to get 3/4 of the way through it and ruin it on some little thing. It's pretty straightforward, and I can make quite a few of them, so they're a lot cheaper. So that's the reason why I'm not going to make the Elite for now, unless customer demand, people just want them. Now, the upside and downside. The downside of this is it's really hard to build and expensive, but it only weighs 8 grams. The BIOS Micro weighs 15.5 grams, so it's 8 grams heavier than this. So, but it's much more durable. Anything that's going to be more durable is going to be heavier. So, that's the story. I'm Tinny from Mini Bull Design. Get out and hike, take a friend, enjoy the great outdoors, and more important than anything, try to have a really great day. Bye-bye.